the Health and Wealth Radio Network.
Selfless service is the guiding principle that drives Army National Guard soldiers to be always ready whenever disaster strikes. They are your next-door neighbors and your colleagues in schools, offices, and factories. To be a Guard soldier is to stand ready to serve at all times for family, for community, and for country. To learn more, log on to NationalGuard.com or contact an Army National Guard recruiter in your area. Sponsored by the Florida Army National Guard. Aired by the Florida Association of Broadcasters and this station.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
It's Monday night at 9 p.m. and time for Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers. Dr. Ricky Siegel is a certified sex therapist, educator, and supervisor, and his brother Larry Siegel is a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator. The Siegel brothers are here to answer all your questions about sex and sexuality, but we're unsure who to ask, including questions you didn't even know you had. They will also welcome guests from around the globe to talk about a wide variety of topics and issues within the fascinating world of sexuality. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to Sex Talk.
Good evening. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers, although tonight you're going to get Sex Talk with a Siegel brother. Ricky is out of town, as a matter of fact, on a road trip, taking my niece out to the Pacific Northwest, who's moving out there. Such mixed feelings. Glad to see her expanding, spreading her wings, going, but heartbreaking to see her go. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing great on the road. And Ricky, if you're listening, Facebook or watching, we miss you. For everybody else, so glad that you can join us tonight. If you're following us on the radio tonight on 95.3 WNN, also on the AM dial at 1470, or you might be watching us on Facebook. So hello and good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to join the conversation tonight, you can give us a call at 888-565-1470. And it'd be great, since it's just me tonight, it'll just be us. Would definitely welcome your comments and your questions. Also want to give a little shout out for Earth Day. Very relevant, I think, to the things that we talk about, given that this is, it's been going on for a long time. I'm still waiting for population to really, truly be one of the cornerstones of Earth Day issues. We know that that's huge. One of the most significant issues affecting the planet is population and growth and basically availability of resources, all of which relate to population. So for those millennials who everyone's been talking about for the last couple of months, who are having less sex than anybody else, we thank you. The planet thanks you. The earth thanks you. In fact, what a great way to celebrate Earth Day. Don't go out for a drive. Don't go out and, carbon footprint all over the place. Stay in, have sex, use birth control, and really honor the planet. Right? I think it's a wonderful thing. Right? So thank you all for that, and hope you're doing something for Earth Day in general. So what are we going to do tonight? I figured since it's just going to be me pretty much ranting and raving on my own, a couple of things I'd certainly like to talk about that are germane and front burner kind of issues. Ricky and I have talked on many occasions about the irony that something so life-affirming, the source of such great pleasure and ecstasy, is also, for so many people, such a dark force. So there are things that we do kind of have to talk about. One of the things I want to start with is been an ongoing theme that we've had for about a year and a half now, and that is that idea of men being responsible for stopping and preventing sexual violence and sexual abuse. And there's something I want to say about that. Some of it is in response to something that I had posted on Facebook, about a week ago. It was a meme that somebody had sent me. Just a woman holding a sign. And basically the gist of it is, why is it that virtually every woman knows another woman who has experienced some kind of sexual assault or sexual violence? But you can't find any men who know men who have perpetrated some kind of sexual violence. And, I posted that on Facebook. And I was a little bit surprised how many people, as many guys, were responding back with a really defensive attitude. Hey there, Lori. Very nice to see you. Thanks for listening. And I think that in itself speaks to the issue. And I've had guys in response sort of challenge me. What do I mean by that? What am I going? Does that mean that every man is a rapist and that we all know people who are raping? No, I think the point is a little bit more subtle. Yes, I think it is very true that most women know somebody who has experienced sexual violence, and almost no men will say that they do. And that's not because men are not looking or listening or any of that kind of stuff. It's just that men aren't really framing it that way. When we hear other men talking about sort of treating women in, mechanistic kind of ways, we've talked about some of the phrases that men use, not nice words to use for intercourse, or not really nice or positive, certainly not loving descriptions of what they're doing to a lot of these women. And I think that's so normal for so many guys. And I think the real point behind that meme is, yeah, women are sensitive to it because women had to deal with it. Guys have been ignoring it. Guys have been passively allowing it to continue for way too long. And that was really my point in posting that meme, that I'm not saying every guy is a rapist, but, when you talk about the culture of masculinity that makes it easy for that to happen, I think most of us end up being complicit. If we hear other guys talking about treating women in abusive ways and disrespectful ways, do we say something? Do we speak up? Ask them to reframe that, restate it, or just stop doing it? I don't think we do. I think too many guys laugh it off. Too many guys are sort of tacitly approving that behavior, and we're not standing up to it directly. So something that started here, I think last year, I'll put that up there again. Not really sure how all this stuff really works, but this hashtag Stop It is something that men really need to grab onto. Because remember, it is not women who stop sexual violence against women. It is the people who are perpetrating sexual violence against women that need to stop it. And only they can do that. So we really have to step up a little bit more. And in light of the Brett Kavanaugh hearings and in light of some of the nonsense that this ridiculous president has been caught on tape saying, we seem to be going the other way. So, guys, let's do a little bit better job of redirecting both our behavior and the conversations to a little less abusive, a little less predatory, a little less dominating. And how about just sort of let's all be human beings and allow other people to be human beings? And, it's not really just a rant here. There was a study done earlier this year in January. I believe it was actually in the British Journal of Sexual and Reproductive Health. And it was an article. I found it a very disturbing study, to be honest with you. It was pretty much on sexual agency for women. In other words, to what degree do women control their reproduction? And it turns out, to a great degree, they don't. 1 in 4 women do not have control over their reproductive decisions. 1 in 4 women are coerced either into terminating a pregnancy or not terminating the pregnancy, depending on the preference of their partner or their family. Women are coerced into not using condoms. Been hearing that one for many, many years. Right? Even a lot of women that may start by saying, "We need to use a condom. Do you have one?" When the answer is, no, I don't, but I'll use one next time, that doesn't give you a pass now. Right? But a lot of women don't even get to that point because they're just not allowed to use them. Or that coercion is, he will use the condom, but covertly remove it during intercourse. Yeah, exactly, Sora. It's just really a matter of being respectful. I don't think there's any tremendous burden that we're putting on guys. We're just asking guys to be more respectful. Hey, Ann, how are you? The question, do millennials have the same statistics regarding sexual assault? Are their attitudes different, or is this a generational thing? That's a really good question. Most of the data does show that it's kind of older guys. However, there is a lot of it that's been recharacterized. We're seeing among younger guys, but it's not necessarily in the same way that we might look at assault. It might really be due, and I'm going to move into something that, Sora, you actually messaged me earlier to talk about this tonight. And it's a good segue into the effect of porn on kids. As younger and younger people are being exposed to porn and erotic material, we've been hearing for a couple of years now the far-right reaction to the availability of porn. It's the new crack, it's a new drug, it's affecting your brain. I actually had somebody say in the middle of a talk that porn is the new crack and it affects the brain in the same way crack does, and it is just as lethal as crack is. And I'm sorry, but that's nonsense. When we look at what we can see as the effect and impact of porn, especially on younger males and females as well, but really the main consumers are males, it really has more to do with a lack of respect, treating women like objects, not knowing the difference between fantasy and reality. And what happens is, for a lot of younger people, especially guys, the porn is kind of creating the template for their sexual behavior. It's creating the set of norms around sex and sexuality for them. And it's unrealistic, and it does tend to be disrespectful. Oh, excuse me, I think I'm about to sneeze. Oh, okay, there's a teaser. It'll come back on me. But I think what it does is it just makes it easier. I don't want to say to be disrespectful to women, but it just makes it easier not to respect women. And that's something I think that does tend to snowball. It creates a lot of confusion, a lot of anxiety. Because, again, there's really nothing realistic about porn. And if we really are going to sort of be adult about it and see and deal with it as, I think, the reality that it is, we can't deny that it's there. We can't hide from kids that there's porn. So we have to kind of, I think, get the nerve, get the ability to talk openly and honestly about it. Adults use it for entertainment, so do young people. But we need to be able to talk to young people about the fact that there is fantasy and there is reality. There's entertainment and there's information. And porn is not informative. Porn is not reality. Right? I don't know if porn underlines bad attitudes toward women and sex, but I think it creates unrealistic attitudes, unrealistic expectations, whether they're the expectations that men have to be hard all the time, that men are supposed to be sort of incredibly well endowed, that men have to ejaculate in ropes or buckets and all that kind of stuff that people see in porn. If we can at least start teaching people that this is fantasy, this is entertainment, might have a better, I think, understanding and maybe a better chance at a healthier sexual development. And in all honesty, I don't know if we're really, I think, doing any sense of justice by focusing on porn. Because when we look at other things that people are, especially young people, are sort of almost obsessively connected to in unrealistic ways, there's a lot of stuff, not just online, but in life. I would like to bring this conversation into the world of music videos as well. I think that has a greater impact. Right? When we look at the beginning of MTV, what's wrong with music videos? Well, nothing really. But if we reframe, I think, the way people are used to thinking about it, we're going to have the same conversation as we do with porn, especially in terms of treatment of women. And unlike porn, I think music videos do have an impact on adolescent sexual behavior. If we look at music videos, what are these really all about? The whole industry is basically nothing more than one perspective. You know, people talk about censorship and all that. Oh, there's so much that they show in videos now, we need to censor them. People got to understand there's already too much censorship. That's why we're seeing what we're seeing, because music videos have one perspective and one perspective only, and everything else is censored out. That one perspective is the adolescent male heterosexual fantasy. That's it. Now, when we look at all of the sexualization of women that take place in music videos for the entertainment of men, right? Whether we're talking about, what was that Van Halen video, Hot for Teacher, where you basically have the teacher who starts going into a stripper routine and these prepubescent males that start going nuts. Right? The way these stories are told, the way these things are portrayed are very, very misogynistic. And again, that single perspective, that is the only one that's allowed. And women get that message too. Guys learn that this is how you treat women. And girls learn this is how women get treated. And there's actually data on this. A few years ago, there was I think it was a sociologist, I think he was at Yale at the time, I don't remember exactly where he was, but a sociologist named Sut Jolly, who did a documentary. It was commissioned by MTV, and it was called Dream Worlds. Now, as soon as it was finished, and as soon as the brass at MTV saw the documentary, they promptly banned it for life. And again, it's really all about this, the way this is all created, the mindset, the way music videos are shot. There's something that they talk about called the pornographic gaze, the dehumanizing of women and constantly showing them in silhouettes. The only jobs they seem to have are ones that involve either taking baths and getting dressed and undressed constantly. In the world of music videos, women exist for the sexual gratification of men. And if they don't go along with it, there definitely are consequences. And this is in every genre of music. Some are worse than others, but it's every musical genre. Now, is there anything inherently wrong in sexualizing women, in portraying women in these ways, in looking at women as nothing more than sexual objects? In and of itself, I would have to say no, there is nothing inherently wrong with that. The problem becomes when that is the only perspective that is shown time and time and time again. It gets reinforced over and over again. There is no opposing view. There is no other way to look at it. And over time, it does sink in. There was a study done on the heels of this documentary. 10,000 adolescents in the U.S. between the ages of 15 and 19. What they found, and certain questions, was that 85% of adolescent males said that if it wasn't against the law, or if they wouldn't get caught or get in trouble, they would rape a woman. Right? So nice to know that the only thing that's keeping a lot of these adolescent guys from committing sexual assault and sexual crimes is that they would get into trouble for it. About 80% of these adolescent males went on to say that if they spent a lot of money on a date, right, with a girl, she is obligated to give him sex. And a lot of people might be surprised to learn what they define as a lot of money. And it seems the going rate, the retail price of a girl's virtue is $20. So if an adolescent guy spends $20, he's obligated to have sex. Or he's expecting that she's going to be obligated to have sex with him. Now, that really doesn't surprise me. I don't like it. Yeah, it bothers me, but it doesn't surprise me. But what really surprised me was the 43% of girls in the same age group that agree with that. That is what makes that dangerous. We understand guys have these attitudes, and they've had them for a long time. But now girls are buying into all of this stuff as well. And that I find incredibly problematic. Right? So, if we're going to have this conversation, let's not be myopic about it. Let's look at how that messaging really sort of comes out of there. And I think porn and music videos exist on the same continuum. It's the same kind of messaging that's coming out there, and what we see is similar impact. Although right now I would have to say that the negative impact from music videos is actually more than what we're seeing as a result of porn. Is there desensitization that may come with porn? Yeah, could be. Right? But we really can't say anything about the effects of porn because we just really don't know. The data hasn't been really accurately or effectively derived. We can't separate environmental issues from internal issues. So we really don't know. We're just making these pronouncements based on whatever our personal values might be. So let's get a little bit, I think, better handle on, first, our values. People have different objections to porn. Right? I don't think they all carry equal weight. Right? But going back to this idea of men not being the ones to determine what the sexual templates of women are, this definitely has to change. Right? So I thought that was a very interesting, if not disturbing, study about how at least 25% of men are controlling the reproductive fate of the women that they're sleeping with, including lying about vasectomies, including, I guess I can use the term cream pies, especially after promising that they're going to be very, very careful. And then what they do is they go ahead and think it's funny to ejaculate inside her anyway, because that's what he wants. So these are the kind of attitudinal things that really have to change before the behaviors can. Another thing, to switch topics, again, talking about attitudes and how they often really interfere with healthy sexual behavior, we have this thing out there that people talk about called PrEP, right? Related to HIV, pre-exposure prophylaxis. You may have heard the commercials for the drug Truvada, which is actually a combination of two medications, tenofovir and emtricitabine, which are antiviral drugs. And for people that are not infected with HIV, it is shown to be 92% effective in preventing HIV transmission. And that's wonderful. That really is. That is, an amazing thing. But it's 92%, not 100%. And for me, the biggest issue that comes along with that is there are a lot of people on PrEP who seem to think that gives them a pass. They don't need to use any kind of protection at all. No more condoms because they're on PrEP. Well, please remember that PrEP is really only for HIV. It will do absolutely nothing for any of the myriad other sexually transmitted infections that the person could be exposed to. Hey, Erica, I see another Facebook question there. The transactional essence of sex have been in existence for a very long time. This absolutely needs to shift. Just the idea of generational dowry. I kind of like that. So, we often look at sexual behavior as some sort of exchange, a transaction. What am I getting from this instead of an experience that we're sharing? And I think that's a good point, and I do agree that that's a shift we do need to make. Stop looking at this as what we're getting, even changing the language. Guys, you're not getting a piece. You're sharing an experience with another human being. Right? So that transactional thing does need to shift. And we do a lot of things in that way, a lot of these shifts that have to be made. A lot of changes, a lot of, again, other attitudinal shifts that are really good things, but I'm not going to let go of an issue that I have. I know I brought this up here once before a while back. It doesn't get any traction, but I'm not giving up on it. I may be the only person in the world that thinks that this alphabet soup of not heteronormative sexual identities is a good thing. This LGBTQI bi to ... I think is incredibly disrespectful. It's not about sexual identity. I think it's about self-marginalization. And I think a lot of people do not see it the same way I think people don't see that a gay person or a trans person that refers to a heterosexual person as straight is doing the same thing. Right? They're basically marginalizing themselves. It's the oppressee taking on the characteristic of the oppressor and thinking there's empowerment. Right? Oh yeah, there's another issue with that too. So absolutely, PrEP is really expensive. Right? So that is also definitely the issue. But I'm focusing more on the idea that for a lot of people on PrEP, it seems to make them think they don't need to wear condoms. And it doesn't. Right? Still need to use that for all of the other things. But to go back to this identity thing. Right? Number one, I think the reason that it's so disrespectful is because it's just a one big miscellaneous column. Because it sets it up so that it reinforces the marginalization. It reinforces the sort of dominance of heterosexual identity in society. Heterosexuality is not on there. It's a big othering. So let's stop that. Right? I don't know if I have a better solution for it right now, but let's work on that. And there is the music, and everybody knows what that means. It's time for me to shut up. And that's all the time we have for tonight. I want to thank everybody for listening and for watching, and thank you for joining me tonight. Join us every Monday night, Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers at 9 p.m., and next week, Ricky will be back with us. Have a great night and a great week. Thank you all. Be well.
You've been listening to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Join us every Monday night at 9 p.m. on WNN, 1470 AM and 95.3 FM. Or watch live streaming video at AMP2 TV Productions on Facebook, or look for the shows on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us again next week.